Hello everyone and welcome to this episode, the Wellbeing One of the Women Talking About Learning podcast. Firstly, we want to say thank you to all of our new listeners and subscribers. We've now reached 5,000 downloads for the podcast, which is just amazing. We started this with a hope we would get 500 listens. So to have achieved 10 times that is just incredible. And we are so thankful. The reasons to have those listens are many, but the key one is that we just get smart and brilliant guests, and this week's are no exception. Our first guest is Helen Hill. Helen is a self-employed digital learning and content designer at Unlikely Genius Limited. Unlikely Genius is based on the principles of ensuring the user comes first, communicating in plain language, and making content available to all, living by the mantra, the content you make is not for you. Helen's first self-help business book, Falling Off the Ladder, will be out in October 2021. Our second guest is Martine Bolton. Martine is a trainer, coach, consultant, and also an author. Her book is Your Thinking is Your Superpower. Her business, Sunshine Corporate and Personal Development, provides transformational thinking skills, well-being and personal effectiveness training and coaching to businesses and organisations looking to become more agile, resilient and future fit. This was recorded in mid-July this year when the UK was under a heatwave and about to be let out of lockdown. This is an essential listen. It's 40 minutes and 40 minutes of your time really well spent. This is Women Talking About Learning. This is Helen and Martine talking about well-being.
Hi Martine, how are you doing today?
Hi Helen, amazing. What a gorgeous day we've got out there today.
Isn't it just? It's
and in
lovely.
terms of well-being,
Absolutely.
I think definitely one of the kind of things that makes your spirit soar and helps you to feel good.
Doesn't it just? And holiday tomorrow for me, so that's really picking up my well-being this week. So it's lovely. Actually getting a holiday with sun, which is marvellous. So
amazing.
Yes,
amazing.
Definitely. Yeah. So well, to get started, let's have a chat about what's your prior experience with well-being. Then where does that come in for you?
I think I've just always had an interest. I grew up with a mum who was a nurse, so there was kind of the whole thing with kind of bodies and physical health was a thing in our house. But I've been working in training and development for around about 20 years now, and in one of those roles, some of the training we did was around well-being, so well-being awareness courses for staff, and also managing well-being courses for managers who are really kind of having to support and manage and kind of help people to flourish through sometimes really difficult times. So I think particularly over the last 7 years or so, where lots of different organisations have been undergoing transformation, it's been a big thing, hasn't it?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, especially this last 18 months. I mean, it's been fantastic to see the recognition, I think, of businesses now realising that, they really do need to look after their staff's well-being and now do it from a distance as well.
Yeah.
So that, I think that's been a big change.
Oh, it's been amazing, hasn't it? And not just kind of physical health. So I remember, maybe 10 years ago doing wellbeing courses, and a lot of it was around the kind of the physical well-being, the body stuff. But to see organisations now really kind of, being conscious of and putting in place, strategies and activities that support people around mental and emotional well-being too, has just been really heartening. And I think given the last 18 months as well, I think it has been an added challenge for people. So I mean, I trained in hypnotherapy and NLP probably about 15 or more years ago now, so that kind of health in terms of the well-being of the mind and the power of the mind has always been a big thing for me. So I think that's why I'm just really heartened that the rest of the world seems to be cottoning on to the fact that, when our minds are happy, our bodies follow suit.
And I think that was a big thing you said to me yesterday that hit home, actually, when you made a comment when we were having a chat about we are not just our bodies. And that's been a key driver for me, I think, in my personal journey, which has led to my interest in wellbeing in learning, because, you know, wellbeing is a huge topic for me. I have 2 acute illnesses plus a whole myriad of smaller ones as well. So, you know, my personal wellbeing journey has been a roller coaster, but that's where my passion for now creating learning and considering other people's well-beings has really come into what I do, I suppose. And like I say, that's why you know, it's been heartening to see the last year, and hopefully now build some more connections with businesses that are doing this well, and see, you know, what the best practice is.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So to all appearances, we are just these bodies, aren't we, floating around in time and space. But actually there's I always say that we are multidimensional beings, and that, you know, the whole thing with you know, our physical bodies, our minds, our mental health, our emotional health as well, kind of the energy and everything, and our spirit as well, is essentially the essence of what animates us. You know, I believe, and certainly many others do, is that we are spirit, and these bodies, it's just like physical matter that is our kind of vehicle for connecting with, communicating with other people, other spirits, and getting stuff done on our planet, you know, building and making and creating things. So
well, it's all connected, isn't it? I mean, your physical health impacts your emotional and vice versa, and that's definitely a cycle that I personally recognise of. It's very difficult to then get out of as well, and all these emotions and the mental health are also things that people bring to the learning and the training they do. So, you know, considering where people are coming from and that journey they're on is a huge thing. So it's not just about creating learning opportunities to do with well-being, is it? It's whatever the topic is, you know, considering where people are in their journey and how they feel when they come to learning and training experiences.
And that idea that we are not just, you know, we're not just people, we're not just the roles that we play, but we are, you know, we are these multidimensional beings. I'm going to say it again. And if all 4 aspects, and I mean, I say 4, there are probably other dimensions as well, but mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, if we are not looking after ourselves and looking up for other people in respect of all 4 areas, it's a bit like, I sometimes use the analogy of a table with 4 legs. And, you know, if you've got a wobbly leg, you know, if you're not paying enough attention to, you know, how people are feeling or how they're thinking, or, you know, how they're being managed, you know, the culture that they're in, the atmosphere, the environment, the spirit of your organization, then, you know, you're not going to get the best out of people. And, you know, this is not for necessarily just for the sake of, you know, having a load of happy people, but we know, don't we, that when people, you know, think well, when it makes them feel well, and when they feel well, they do well, and when they do well, the organization gets great results.
So, I think it's about respect and things as well, isn't it? And making sure that, particularly with things like the mental health, that you're not just paying lip service and doing that one event a year, or, you know, doing a Macmillan coffee morning, but the rest of the time, you're not considering the full impact of what the culture of your business is, or like I said, there's companies that are doing it fantastically. There's others that are trying, but maybe not quite getting there. But there's definitely a shift now of people, employees, being more aware of it and looking for companies that are doing it well. I think certainly as freelancers, I've noticed that as well.
You hear a lot these days about mental health first aid, don't you? And, you know, don't get me wrong, I think it's a fantastic thing, and the awareness that it's putting out there about sort of mental health is amazing. But I don't really see that as a prevention strategy. You know, having people in the business who recognize when people are struggling and kind of go in with first aid, you know, that's amazing. But, you know, do that. You know, there's nothing wrong with doing that. But also make sure that all of the things that are controllable in your organization, that affects how people feel, that all of those things, as far as you can manage them, are not causing distress or stress, or causing, you know, just dysfunction and discomfort for people.
It's it comes down to the proactive versus reactive thing, isn't it? We need to be more proactive to prevent these well-being issues instead of it occurring and then saying, right, what can we do for you? And that's the culture shift that maybe needs to take place in a lot of industries and a lot of businesses. And I think times are changing, and I think we're still catching up with it, I think.
Sure.
At the moment.
I love that old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And I think, with everything, not just with organisations, but within our healthcare systems and everything.
Yes.
If we could focus some budget on prevention rather than just firefighting and just chucking loads of money, once things have gone wrong, is obviously the more kind of sensible way of going about things, the more intelligent way.
Well, yeah, and I suppose you need to have those dedicated people to be able to put these strategies in place and to have the knowledge of how to do it, don't you? But you don't often get that
as well now. Helen, I think in terms of organisations who are looking to improve their wellbeing offer, there's so much research out there, white papers, where people can go and they can access amazing information that's going to enable them to transform not just the businesses and the organisations, but the quality of experience of the people that that work in those places. And it's all there for us. How amazing is that? We don't have to go on field trips to lots of different organisations who are doing well. We don't have to go to libraries anymore. The information is out there, and there's no excuse now. And a lot of it doesn't cost money either. So I'm sure a lot of companies put a lot of money into wellbeing, and it's amazing that they do. But getting the basics right, making sure that people are well supported and well managed. This stuff doesn't cost really a lot of money, if anything.
It's interesting you say they don't have to go to libraries, though. That is my well-being. Libraries and bookshops.
Well, fair enough. There's nothing nicer than a physical book, is there?
Sometimes having stroking the covers and immersing yourself in books. That is one of my key things I do. That and crafts. And stroking my rabbits, of course.
But I think it gives us a brain break, doesn't it? All of this stuff, whether it's you stroking your pets or reading a book or doing something creative, it takes us out of that thinking mind, which actually many of us are compulsive thinkers, I think. And actually, in terms of our well-being, we need to have breaks from that.
Yeah, and finding what works for you within your bounds. Because one thing that I struggle with, like with well-being, is the fact that people say, like, get outdoors and exercise and those things are fantastic, and I do love the outdoors, although it's usually raining around here in West Yorkshire, but because of one of my health issues, I'm generally in a lot of pain, so I have to find other ways often, because I'm not allowed to do that exercise. I've been banned from my physio, and for once I've actually started listening. It's took 4 years, but I'm listening now. And so it's finding those strategies of, right, I can't do those things that I want to do, because normally I would throw myself into a kickboxing class or something like that just to get stress relief out. So now I've had to learn new ways to help my well-being. And I think people can struggle with that. They can think, but I have to do it this way because we're told to do exercise however many times a week and XYZ, and sometimes that actually isn't good for you to do it that way. So I have to learn to do it in little walks rather than going out on a big mission.
And it's amazing, isn't it? You don't have to slog your guts out in a gym, or you don't have to, it doesn't have to be high impact intensity training. A walk or a swim or whatever you love, and that doesn't cause you too much pain. There's definitely something for everybody. I think we kind of have some hang-ups from school where you were kind of bullied into certain types of physical training that just always felt a bit punitive and like like you were being punished. Get down and give me 20 and run 3 laps around it.
That was actually how I really injured my hip the first time, getting down and giving me 20, and as I got back up my hip went. And I was only 40.
Oh no. But, that's awful. Sorry to hear that. School's got a lot to answer for, hasn't it?
Well, yeah, that and the intensive athletics training I was doing as a youngster. I did every sport going, but yeah, I was a competitive athlete, which was a big thing. But yeah, there's a real expectation on women as well, isn't there? That particularly I notice it at this time of year, and it's something that can make me quite angry actually. But this whole bikini body culture and the pressure to, right, the summer's here, have you got your summer body on? But I love what I saw someone say the other day about, I have a body, therefore I have a bikini body. It doesn't matter what size it is. And I was like, I love that, especially as, you know, a slightly larger woman who, you know, my weight fluctuates like crazy. But I thought that was brilliant, just to say, I have a body, and that it's so therefore, if it can wear a bikini, it is a bikini body. It doesn't matter what size. And I'm seeing it again, especially because, you know, regulations are going to ease next week with the pandemic, and suddenly people are going, oh, I've booked a last minute holiday. How do I lose 3 stone in a week? And you're just like, no, no, that is not good for you.
No.
But it's an incredible pressure, I think, on women.
It's a total
this time
pressure.
of year.
I think you're right. And the shiny world of Instagram and Facebook, and you know, all of our media, you know, the images that we see everywhere, it's like the 1% of humans that look amazing, isn't it? And probably they have to punish themselves to look like that. So, you know, there's deprivation or a lot of punishing training that probably goes in. Some people might be just naturally that way, and you know, that's amazing for them. But for most humans, you've got to work at that, and it's a bit self-obsessed, isn't it? And it can overtake your life, and actually it's not, you know, it's not real for most people. And just being healthy and enjoying your life and enjoying your food, and it's easy enough to say, isn't it? Because we see these images, and it can make us, if our self-esteem is in any way shaky, and I think, gosh, this is probably most
of us are,
then we could look at that and kind of and then feel ashamed to put a bikini on and go on the beach, which is just absolute nonsense. So I do think
say that it does apply to everything, and this is something that I've had a bit of debate with someone about this week, because they commented that they don't like the word authenticity because it's becoming a bit of a buzzword. But actually, I quite often talk about that, and I do think that we should all be authentic and, you know, show the real side. And the whole culture of comparisonitis that we've got now is so painful for well-being. And it's a reason why I share things about my business. I share the highs, but I share the lows, and I share the struggles. And, you know, I've put a post out this week about the fact that we've just lost my grandma, and the amount of people that have gone like, oh gosh, I'm feeling this too. And it's so much better for us as a community of freelancers and things that we're not just looking at people thinking, oh my God, they're crushing it, they've got this award, they've done this, they've done that, they're getting on all the podcasts and webinars. And it's so easy to look at people like that. And then and I've been thinking that about someone that's become a friend of mine that's a fellow freelancer. But recently I spoke to her, and actually she was having a heck of a moment of crisis, and someone had made an awful comment to her, and it had really brought her down. And to see that other side from what you saw on LinkedIn and things, there's such a huge disparity, and it made me really think, like, it's incredible what we're perceiving of other people and comparing ourselves to. So I try to be really open about that and hope that I can at least make someone feel better on a day where I'm like, what am I doing?
Wow. This is really good. It's making me think, because I do know that you know, not every day is sunshine and roses, is it? Or sunshine and daffodils. But most of what people post, most of what I post on my social media is positive. It's highlights. You know, I'm not one of these people that goes on and just says if I'm having like a crap day. And I think, well, actually, maybe, because I just think nobody really cares. Nobody really wants to know, do they?
But they really do.
Don't really want.
They really do.
I'm going to say they probably don't really want to see your highlights, really, do they? It's like sometimes,
yeah, true.
You know, the person that's always there with their selfies, and you know, everything's wonderful. Occasionally, if you're not in kind of the best frame of mind, you can just think, oh, go away when you're scrolling through. Shut up about your nice holiday, whatever it is. So
I find that the posts where I talk about a wobble are the ones that get the most engagement, because everybody can relate to it.
Because it's
whereas some of the highlights actually are harder to relate to. But and it is great. there really is a nice community of people out there that you can find. Yeah, obviously there are the trolls and there are the people that are going to give you a hard time for anything. Or as my fella says, there are people that are professionally offended. And that's really true.
It is so true.
Yeah. And I love it. He says it to me all the time when I go, why someone commented like this on my post? And it, you know, it really brings you back down to earth and think, yeah, some people do just make a living of it. But I think you can find those right networks out there to really help you in your work, whether you are a freelancer or a full-time employer, whatever it might be. There are a great bunch of people out there who have been through what you are going through. Maybe not exactly the same experience, but they will be able to relate, and they will either send you a well-timed GIF if you're on Twitter, or they will send you messages of support, give you ideas of ways to, you know, deal with an issue, a situation. And I must say, the community out there online have been the best thing for my well-being since I left working for others, where I was basically in a breakdown, to now building to where I am now and feeling confident in myself and all that again.
That's just so heartening again, isn't it? I just feel that sometimes sometimes I think we can feel very alone, particularly if you are struggling with something. And it's easy to feel lonely, but actually we need never feel lonely, because when you do kind of reach out, and often sometimes when we're feeling crap, we're least likely to, aren't we? We're more likely to keep to ourselves and hunker down and what have you. But when you do kind of, you know, reach out and kind of say, oh, I'm struggling, or, you know, I need help, or whatever it is, then I think you realize how many people are out there who are happy to help. And actually you're almost giving them an opportunity to feel good about themselves, aren't you, by asking for help?
People love giving advice, they really do. So why not make the most of that? And, you know, it's lovely that the community is so and there's such a cross divide. It's, you know, it's easy to sometimes end up just in a community of women, but there are men in there, and then there are parents, there are people without children, there are people from around the world, which, you know, can give a whole different perspective again. And we all have as tough a time as each other. I think it's not like it is just women that are struggling. You know, the amount of men in my Twitter network and my LinkedIn network who are just fantastic. And, you know, one messaged me yesterday after seeing the post about my grandma and just said, I'm really struggling too, let's have a chat. And this is a bloke that I vaguely know from on LinkedIn. And
amazing.
It's lovely. It really is nice, because even sometimes with your friends that, you know, from school, from university, whatever they are, they might not necessarily know what you're going through. Whereas when you reach out to these bigger communities, there will be someone that does.
Definitely.
And
I think it's harder for men though, you know, because women generally, we are better at getting our emotional well-being needs met. You know, we will talk to each other generally. So of course it's a generalization, but, you know, from the work that I do with a well-known national charity that supports people around, with a listening service and around suicidal thoughts and feelings. I can't say the name because there's a non-disclosure in place. But from the work I do with that organisation there, you know, we know that men struggle more than women, and largely because it's, you know, often difficult for men to kind of say, I'm struggling, I need some help, or, you know, just talking about emotional content for all sorts of reasons. Now,
and we need to normalise that, because it's not right that they should have to struggle in silence. Nobody should have to struggle in silence. No. And I am heartened by some of these organisations that come out that are appearing aimed at men. And, you know, sometimes
they're everywhere people,
now, don't you, that comment saying, well, why is it just for men, and why is this one just for women, and why is it just let people have their little safe zones, whatever it is. Everybody needs a little safety net somewhere. And I love the work they're doing, particularly, you know, I've had a couple of friends who've lost brothers and things to suicide in the last few years, and it is absolutely needed. And like I say, I do think they have a tougher time sometimes, but then there's the other side of the coin where sometimes women can be penalised for being too emotional, I think, in the workplace and stuff. And that whole, the thing I struggled with was the whole corporate robot. You have to be this really shut down certain way you know, one size fits all culture, I think, when you work in corporate and working for other people. And I think that was one thing that really made me struggle. But now being at home, which we thought I would really struggle with, when I said I was going to be working from home full time, my partner was just like, oh no, this is not good at all, because I used to get cabin fever really bad. But I've actually really taken to it because it gives me that headspace to deal with my emotions. So, you know, day to day, if I'm getting stressed with a client or upset about something, or someone sent a funny comment or bad feedback, I can just deal with it however I need to. If I want to cry, if I want to go outside for 10 minutes, you know, I can go for a walk, I can down tools for an hour. And nobody can say to me, what are you doing? Why?
Yeah.
It just gives you that space to actually process. And
yes,
there's no coincidence that since I've worked for myself from home, I've only had 2 sick days in 3 years. Whereas when I was in an actual workplace, open plan office, I ended up off sick for a week at a time with my mental well-being, my physical well-being. Everything was really colliding together, and you just couldn't separate the two in the end. So it's an incredible change, and I think this is something that the whole flexible working approach that's come in with the pandemic, and I know there was a previous podcast episode on that with Kim and Ashley, that's making such a change, because people are realising now, actually, this way of working is better for me and it's better for my family. And if I can work 8 till 10 in the morning, then look after the kids for a couple of hours and then work at night, and as long as I get my work done, that's good. Brilliant. That's a fantastic progression that is making.
Flexibility is good, isn't it? And I think as long as, you know, the connection thing, human beings, we do need connection. So I think if you are a solo worker, it can be great, can't it? We know it can be amazing. You can make it work for you. You can fit it around whatever else is in your life. But we do need, humans need other humans, even if we try not to. Yes, so if ever you try to be an island and just deal with stuff yourself, we can't. You know, we are connected. We are literally connected.
And if people are, you know, looking for communities, I mean, there'll be all sorts out there for all different industries and things, but, you know, start, particularly if you're like a freelancer, get involved in things like Freelance Heroes and Being Freelance. They're 2 massive communities, and people posting there regular, anything from how do I deal with this nightmare client to what on earth is this tax thing I've just got, or where can I find out about such and such. And you know, you'll get so many answers, and someone will always answer your question. And like I say, that's a great, but then you've got things like Twitter chats as well that are out there that, you know, get on all these hashtag chats that are on, and you get to know people through that, because you do have the regular people on there, and you start to build a relationship with them. And you know,
there's never been a better time, has there, for connection? I mean, if you think about the pandemic and everything, if it had happened even 10, 15 years ago, was the technology there? Would we have been able to have the virtual kind of world? Was Twitter a thing then? It probably was 15 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I didn't know how to use it
back then. I still don't use it. I've got an account, but I just think I'm so busy with the other stuff, with LinkedIn and everything else, that I just think, you know, somewhere where people are just giving their opinions all the time, it just feels a bit too overwhelming to be doing it all. But I'm probably missing some of the benefits of that as well.
It's interesting you bring that up, though, because I was on a call recently, and a lady that is a therapist had said that she thinks our nation has now got PTSD after the pandemic. And I think that's a really interesting point. But like you say, given if it was 10 years ago or 15, we wouldn't have had all these connections, and even things like, my dad was in hospital a lot during the pandemic, and sadly he passed away in February. But if this had been years ago, we wouldn't have had WhatsApp video calls with him every day and been able to talk to him, because we weren't allowed to visit him. But at least we could have that connection, which not only was it good for us being at home worrying about it, but for someone stuck in a hospital who couldn't have visitors, that's really sad. Really, really sad. And
heartbreaking.
But at least we had that last connection with him, because like I say, a few years ago we would not have had that. Certainly wouldn't have been able to work his mobile to do it anyway. But
I know. I mean, so we have in so many ways with you know, it's been a rubbish 18 months, hasn't it? However, it could have been a lot worse. And I just have such a strong sense that everything's changing because of what's happened, and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is a generalization, obviously, but most organizations and businesses and institutions and people are really kind of looking about, have we set everything up in the way that is working for us? I think people have changed, their values have changed, organizations have realized that a lot of the work that they were doing wasn't good, or it wasn't sustainable. And in a few years' time, I'm sure we'll look back and we'll just see how transformational it's all been for the better. But at the moment, we're still feeling our losses, and it's the social freedoms being clamped down on. It was so tough for us, wasn't it? And hopefully now we're just about there. So even if it's temporarily, we've got to enjoy these freedoms. And
and I think it makes you think about what helped you before. Like, one big thing for me has always been traveling. I love traveling, my holidays, and obviously I've not been able to do that for the last year and a half. And that's again where you have to think, right, well, now I need to replace this thing I had before with something else. And we have done fantastically as a nation, I think, to adapt and to find ways of dealing with it. The amount of people that have taken up outdoor swimming, I'm absolutely loving that. I used to do a lot of open water swimming, and suddenly all these people are on the bandwagon with it, and I'm like, I need to get back into this. And they've just found that, yes, they can't go away for the weekend, but they can throw themselves in the sea and they can have a good time.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic, because they're also then building more networks as well of meeting more people doing this.
It's meeting more than one need, isn't it? It's fresh air, it's it's oxygenating their system, it's kind of moving the lymph around their bodies, it's social connection, it's vitamin D, hopefully, if you've got a day with a bit of sunlight. So amazing.
Yeah, so we have adapted, and I just hope now that a lot of this stays in place, and that, because a lot of people obviously kept talking about, when we go back to XYZ, but I think because it's gone on so long, there's that realization now, isn't there, that things cannot go back to how they were, and let's embrace it. And hopefully that will help, when everything does lift properly. Fingers crossed we don't end up in another lockdown. But it should help people to start moving forward and find new ways of working. And I think the companies that go back to the old ways, or try to, are going to be the ones that suffer, because they'll lose good members of staff who now have seen a different way of working.
And definitely well-being is more on the agenda now, I think, because of everything that's happened. We know that we've got to be paying more attention to people's physical well-being with the long COVID, and COVID still isn't gone. It's still around, and goodness knows how long that's going to be the case. But also, the mental health, people who are, isolation is one of the highest risk factors for suicide, and a lot of people have experienced horrendous isolation. And so I do think that we know we've got this issue. I think it was somebody like an organisation such as the Royal College of Psychiatrists who last year said that they were anticipating a tsunami of mental ill health kind of post-COVID, because people hadn't been able to get their appointments and what have you. So I think more money is going to be put to well-being, whether that's through governments, whether that's through organisations, or
it's going to have to be. I mean, it was already a system that was flooded before, wasn't it? I mean, I know myself, when I've tried to access help, that to be told, it's an 18-week waiting list, that's not good enough. That, when people are really in the throes of despair, depression, anxiety, I was having panic attacks every day, and for them to say that is just that next level of, I'm not going to get the help I need. And something does need to be done about that. So I dread to think now what the waiting lists are going to be, with obviously staff have been seconded elsewhere, and there's going to be double the amount of people. But this is where we need to look after each other as well. And I think these communities are key for doing some of that, obviously, for those, especially for those that maybe live alone, like you say, that are isolated. It's really important that we do look out for each other now and build those connections. And if you see someone's behaviour change, reach out to them. And but there's also, I know something we were talking about yesterday was knowing the right thing to say. It's so hard to know the right thing to say.
And even believing that there is a one right thing to say, because I think that's probably, you know, there just isn't really, is it? There is no script anywhere, a right script that you absolutely, you know, it depends on the person, it depends on the situation. And certainly in some of the training that I do for that well-known organisation that I mentioned earlier, we say that it's far less about what you say and so much more about the quality and the attentiveness of your ability to be with somebody and to listen. And you know, when we can, you know, really develop that skill of being present with another person who's struggling and park everything else and just give ourselves over in service to kind of listening and, you know, understanding and appreciating what somebody else is experiencing, then there's something about that quality of listening that gives the other person a different quality of thinking space in which to be able to, you know, download all of their thoughts and feelings, but then to begin seeing better what they're dealing with and to begin thinking about maybe what their courses of action are. So I think often we think we've got to come up with the solutions for people, but really all we need to do is to, so, you know, give ourselves over to the service of listening, and that changes the quality of somebody's thinking, and it gives them the space and the bandwidth to think clearly about what they want to do and how they can move forward. So, you know, we need to kind of probably stop thinking of, you know, we have to save somebody, you know, we have to rock up in with our pants around our trousers and our capes on, superhero capes on. No, you can be a superhero just by being present with somebody and really properly listening, kind of engaging from, you know, your heart, really.
And sometimes just a hug. Or just, you know, just touch. Sometimes that's all someone needs, a touch. You know, when I was having a rough time after my dad, one of my neighbours came round and she stood at the front door and she said, you know, I don't care. I've got to just give you a hug. And it was just when they'd said in the news that we could hug again. So,
oh wow, okay.
It was just like, you know, and it was like, gosh, this is the first hug I've had in a long time.
It felt inhumane, you know? Didn't it? That directive, you know, you cannot hug your loved ones. So thank goodness for the time being, at least that hugs are back on the horizon. But you know, we do need to, you know. I have to remember sometimes that I should never impose a hug on somebody because it's my instinct. But you know, you should check it out with people first. I want to give you a hug. Can I give you a hug first?
Yeah.
They might kind of say, no, actually, I don't want your hugs.
I must admit, I did joke a few months ago when they said about hugging again. I said, I need a badge that just says I want that keen on hugs in the first place. You know, I'll keep your distance. But there's a time and a place where they are nice. But I'm not that tactile a person. So,
it's touch, isn't it? Like you were saying, the well-being benefits of touch. I think when we talked earlier on about stroking our pets and things like that, it's the oxytocin release and all of those good.
That has been a game changer for me, getting the rabbits. It really has, and this is why they've become such a big part of my business, actually, because just being able to go out and look at their face, they're the fluffiest, most diva little creatures you've ever seen. They really are. They've actually got their own castle and everything now. And just to go out and look at their face or look at whatever antics Strudel's up to, because they're called Tiffin and Strudel, she just puts a smile on my face every day. And that really can't be underestimated of the power of pets, actually. It is a fantastic wellbeing tool. Even my neighbours come round and see them because they're just like, well, I can't not. I need to see their face. Exactly. And so it's not just me getting the well-being, it's the street.
Everyone. Where would we have been without our furry friends throughout lockdown? I do think that they have kept us. They've kept us sane and they've kept us well.
And they made you move away from. Go on, sorry.
There's a really weird fact, and I can't quite remember it exactly. So do Google it, and with any kind of statistics and things, I think you have to be a little bit aware. Just do your research. But it's something like if you own a cat, and I don't know if it's the same with a rabbit, but it's probably some kind of soft furry thing. People who own cats are something like 2/3 less likely to die from heart disease,
Oh wow,
something
right,
like that.
okay.
So, and I think it probably is just
caring for something,
stroking something furry. So your rabbits are probably the same.
Apart from when they attack me, then that's a whole different ballgame. I look like I've had a fight with Wolverine.
Oh gosh, did they scratch like cats then?
Yes, yeah, they can do. So just as a final question then, because this is something that you do see debated a bit, and I have certain thoughts about it, but this whole sentence of it's okay not to be okay. What are your thoughts on that one?
Oh, it's just a no-brainer, isn't it? There are going to be times in all of our life when we're not okay. By the very fact that we're human, there's going to be stuff that's going on in your life, whether it's your health, work, stresses, just at risk of repeating myself again, not every day is sunshine and roses.
No.
And, there will be days when you are not okay. So it's, and of course it's okay it's not okay. It's not only okay not to be okay, it's also okay to admit that you are not okay, and just to reach out and kind of say, actually, I'm struggling here. And sometimes it might be just some practical help. Somebody can do something because you're stressed, or it could just be, you're feeling okay and not okay in a different way. But I think, reaching out and connecting with somebody else, whether that's even just over the phone or virtually, if we're in a lockdown or something, it's just crucial, because we need that connection. And somehow when our energies connect with another human being's energies, we feel less lonely. We know that it's all going to be okay. And just having that dialogue, I think, not feeling like you have to withdraw and isolate and keep those feelings to yourself. And, what else are we here for if not to kind of be there for one another?
Yeah, that's a lovely way of putting it, actually. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on it, Helen?
Well, I absolutely agree with the sentiment. It is okay not to be okay. And like I say, I'm a big advocate of showing everything. But it's when, again, it's used as tokenism by companies or trying to jump on the bandwagon that I just get a bit icky about it. So yes, I love the sentiment, but I just want people to live the value all the time, not just when it suits or to throw it out at certain occasions. Because, it is a roller coaster. Especially, I discovered this in freelancing, you can be amazing one minute and the next minute someone will bring you down. It is a real roller coaster of emotion. And, we've got to be honest about that. And we all experience it. So let's make it okay. I'm not sure we're there yet, but let's make it okay, I think.
And that sounds like a perfect place on which to wrap up. What a great final sentence. That's a real bit of golden nugget soundbite, that is, Helen.
Oh, good. Fabulous. Right.
Really nice to chat. These things, it's an important conversation, great. Isn't it?
It is. It really is. And yeah, let's keep building these lovely communities and supporting each other. I think that's fantastic. But yeah, it's been great talking to you today. Thank you very much.
Likewise.
I enjoyed it.
Look after yourself and look after your loved ones.
And all of you that are listening as well. Hope you're feeling great and have a lovely summer.
I loved this episode. There was so much useful content in it that the links page in the notes is enormous. Helen and Martine were just great, and I know I'll be coming back to this episode again. Massive thanks to Helen and Martine for their time and such brilliant conversation. Their contact details, links and reference information are all in the show notes. We're recording again soon, and we've still got plenty of topics that need to be covered. Please do get in touch if you would like to be a guest. As always, thank you for listening, and we'll see you again soon.